Hey, what's up everyone? Coach Danny here. You're a new boxer. You're wondering what type of equipment should you purchase. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the boxing equipment required for good boxing training. So check it out. All right, so the first thing we're going to start out is the essentials. So you're just starting out, you joined the boxing gym, maybe you just got a heavy bag in your garage and you want to equip yourself with your training partner or a family member to enjoy the sport of boxing. All right, so first things first, right here, I have a pair of hand wraps. This is something you should get. Why? Number one, because it's very cheap. And number two, when I say cheap, not cheap in quality, but cheap in price, it's not very expensive and it's something that's going to last you quite a while. All you need to do is wash them once in a while for sure. But this is to ensure good protection on your hands. All right, so this is like, before we talk about boxing gloves, the essentials, right? Because if you just get boxing gloves and you're starting out, you don't know how to punch correctly just yet. It takes time and you're going to injure your hands. So this is going to help protect your hands. Now, once you're very seasoned, it's okay to train without hand wraps because you know how to punch correctly. We'll talk about that later. But for now, the hand wraps you want to get, a lot of times people will ask me, Coach, what type of hand wraps? There's so many lengths and sizes and differences in quality or even like type of material. Well, mainly you'll find cotton hand wraps, and a lot of times I prefer elastic, or also known as Mexican style hand wraps. All right, you'll see here they're very stretchable, stretch hand wraps, because they're more comfortable to wear and they're also easier to put on than the just straight cotton hand wraps, those thick ones, the old school ones. All right, so you want to get a pair of hand wraps. This is about 180 inches. This is what I like to use. This is what we sell as well. This is going to be just good enough for the majority of people, and it's going to be good enough to protect your hands. Now, when you put hand wraps, you want to always ensure you're protecting your wrist, right? A lot of people think hand wraps are made to protect your knuckles. That's false. Basically, the hand wrap is going to be to protect your wrist and also the small fragile bones on the top of your hands. So that whether you can't sprain your wrist or even break your wrist because you're punching incorrectly, and protect the small fragile bones in the front of your hands on contact every time you strike the heavy bag, for example, right? So a great pair of hand wraps. That's your first good initial investment. Then we're going to talk about boxing gloves, of course. That's the second piece you need, because you don't want to be just punching with your hand wraps or bare knuckle on your heavy bag, for example. Now, I don't have with me a pair of bag mitts, all right? But I'm going to actually try to find a picture or bring it into this tutorial when I edit. I'm gonna put a picture of what I mean by bag mitts. So basically, bag mitts are a very thin layer of padding in the exception of that boxing glove, all right? So a bag mitt could be anything from 4 to 6 ounces. And a lot of times you'll have models that have the thumb open. What this does, it creates good punching mechanics. I really encourage people who are starting out to learn to throw punches on a heavy bag and on a focus pads with bag mitts before the big thick boxing gloves. All right, the boxing gloves, which are 12 ounces, sometimes you'll get bigger, 14 ounces. Well, these types of gloves became stylish because of the aerobic craze, right? When I started out back in the late 80s or mid 90s, right? The aerobic craze of, like cardio boxing and cardio kickboxing became the thing. And now a lot of people were just doing heavy bag workouts and not getting proper form, getting good instruction off the bat. It was just a cardio workout. So that's when it became very popular, where boxing companies were getting more cushiony and thicker boxing gloves. So that way there, if you don't punch correctly, you're well protected overall, such as a boxing glove like this one, right? So I'm not advocating you should get injured when you're punching, but I do recommend the smaller mitts, which I just showed here in the thumbnail in the picture right now, just to show you guys that this will teach you correct mechanics. Now, I train boxing, I train Muay Thai, I train mixed martial arts as well for striking. So I like to use the smaller gloves very frequently, simply because it teaches you how to rotate your fist, how to punch with the 2 first knuckles, not with the bottom side of your fingers, align your wrist bone correctly on contact with the heavy bag and whatnot. So highly recommend these. Now, you're gonna want a pair of good boxing glove anyhow for generalized training when you're doing focus pads or boxing drills with your training partner. So I'll always recommend a pair of 12-ounce gloves. All right, this is great for all-purpose training. All right, it's not too heavy or not too light for most people. And now this boxing glove could be of any quality, right? But just a good basic 12-ounce glove. Leather is recommended. Vinyl gloves are also good. Sometimes they'll crack, but get a good boxing glove for your own budget. And eventually, you'll also want, of course, some proper equipment, such as higher equipment, such as stuff to get more contact action. What I mean by that is the sparring. Everyone who's starting out is always eager to start the sparring because that's the sport of boxing. So now we talked about the essentials, which is the hand wraps and the boxing glove, and of course the training equipment. So maybe a heavy bag, or if you're already going to a boxing gym, you're gonna have all the equipment there. Now, sometimes I'll also recommend, and this is just an additional investment, if you're training with a friend or a training partner, a family member, they get a good quality pair of focus mitts, all right? Because if you don't have a heavy bag, you'll need this, right? These are great focus mitts. These are from Ringside. This was a birthday gift a little while back from my own son who bought me this. They're also referred as the Panther mitts, all right? Because they have that nice curve to it. Now, these mitts, usually I recommend for more advanced practitioners. For people who are just starting out, I'll usually recommend a wider target, like a squarer target, or even if it's circular, but a wider target. Because when you go with smaller mitts, the smaller they are, the more accurate you need to be so you don't hit your training partner in the face. All right, so focus mitts, they're not cheap if you get good quality ones, but they're well worth every penny that you're going to invest because this is going to last you a long time. So let's talk about other additional items as a boxing enthusiast if you want to train. Well, of course, for cardiovascular, right? You're going to want a skipping rope. Now here, I have a very cheap skipping rope. This is a very cheap investment. This is plastic, but I love these because they last a long time. They're inexpensive and they go very good. They're very light, but you can do a lot of rounds with this. So maybe you're going to be doing like 3-minute rounds of skipping rope. Other times we use 10 to 15 minutes nonstop just with the skipping rope. So this is a great investment. You don't need expensive cardio machines when you're training boxing. You just need to go run outside for your cardio and skip rope. Apart from your shadow boxing and all of the extra training you're going to be doing, you're going to get really fit. But this is a good investment because a skipping rope, you can bring in your gym bag anywhere. You can skip indoor or outdoor and use this anytime you want. Now, of course, once you start getting more serious into the sport, you're going to want to invest a little bit more because there's going to be contact. By contact, that's sparring I mentioned. So you're going to need one of the most important piece of protective equipment is going to be the following right here. Now I have a mouth guard. So the mouth guard is going to be super important, all right? If you're going to be doing drills or contact or sparring, okay? Even if it's light sparring, it's very important. Now I'll explain why. A mouth guard is going to help you clench your teeth together, right? So that way there, if you get hit, you're not gonna get an injured or even broken jaw, all right? When you bite onto your mouth guard, the bottom line of your jawline is gonna bite with the upper jaw. And what that does, it clenches everything. It creates like a brain pad. So that way there, if you get hit, your head doesn't jar as much, all right? So mouthpieces, sometimes this is single, sometimes you'll get doubles, all right? That's a question of preference. Some people really relate to a double mouthpiece. I've never worn them, but I mean, if you're comfortable with that, the basic thing is wear that mouthpiece, very important. Okay, it's good, it's gonna protect you. Sometimes if you don't clench your jawline and you get hit even with a soft uppercut, boom, that's gonna crack your jaw or even injure you. So you wanna prevent those things. So you wanna learn with this, and eventually if you get into more serious boxing, such as competitions, you're gonna have to wear one anyways, and if you're not training without it all the time, well, the thing is you're not gonna get used to breathing with a mouth guard on. That's another element that you need to get aware of and into your training session. Now, the next part I'm gonna talk about is going to be a headgear, all right? Of course, nowadays, there's a lot of coaches are gonna say, you know, headgears, yay or nay. I'm not here to debate on science of whether using a protective headgear does less or more damage to your brain. I just think a headgear is a good investment, all right? So boxers have been wearing headgears since the beginning of boxing, all right? Football players, hockey players, cyclists, baseball players, you name it, they all wear protective headgears, and for a reason, all right? So imagine this, if you're playing hockey or you're cycling and you're wearing a headgear in case you fall or get hit, why wouldn't you as a boxer not want to protect your head, because you're gonna get hit all the time for many rounds for 3 minutes, all right? So it's a smart investment. Use a good headgear that has good protection, especially on your forehead, because your coach will be telling you to keep your hands up and your chin down. And because your chin is gonna be down, that's why you don't protect it. you're protecting your chin yourself using your shoulders in boxing gloves, but you're going to be catching a lot of punches with the top of your skull, with the forehead. That's why you got good protection on a headgear like this one. This was my first headgear personally that we got. My wife bought me this when I was training when I was younger. This is a tough wear, but there's many good brands out there. This is one that I wanted because I found it looked really good and really good old school. I didn't want those cauliflower ears, so that's why they put extra padding on the ears here. And then you have some that has cheek protection. All right, and the reason we want this is to prevent cuts. All right, you're not going to get knocked out by getting hit here on the cheekbone, but it's going to cut you. All right, so maybe you have a 9-to-5 job and you want to just spar recreationally with some training partners, but you don't want to get injured, you don't want to get cut. Boxing gloves made of leather are going to cut your skin. All right, even if you slip it to the side, sometimes they'll graze with the Velcros or whatnot. All right, you want to protect your face. All right, you want to be training securely, and a good headgear, in my opinion, is a good investment as well. Okay, now another good investment for protecting yourself is going to be the belly pad. All right, now this is a boxing belly groin protector. Now this we use like professional boxing or amateur boxing underneath your garment, underneath your boxing shorts. Now what's good about this, what I like about this, I used to wear this even when I used to do Muay Thai sparring. All right, this is a great way because it's a very solid protective cup. All right, and it also has belly padding just above, just below your navel. All right, so this is a good investment for sparring. If you're going to be sparring a little bit harder, get a groin protector like this, a boxing one. It's easy because it has Velcro attachments, and then if you're just sparring at the end of your workout session, you just slip this on over your trunks, over your joggers, whatever it is, and you can spar right away and take it right off, right? This is quick to do. You don't have to go get changed and put a traditional cup, for example, all right? So this is another good investment. Now, looking here, I did mention about the essentials, and I would also say that a good pair of boxing shoes is almost essential, because if you're going to be training at home, you don't want to be training barefoot, right? If you're training in your garage, first of all, it's going to be cold. And if you're going to a real boxing gym, all right, boxing gyms have canvas rings, all right? So the boxing ring, it's made of canvas on the flooring. And you don't want to be barefoot on that also because, you know, if you're starting out, your skin is not accustomed to that. Eventually, if you do Muay Thai, you won't care. But as a beginner boxing practitioner, you're going to want something that's going to help you with your boxing technique, all right? So learning the art of boxing, the science, right? How to twist your punches. If you're using regular running shoes, for example, the sole of it is going to get stuck on the floor a lot. So when you're pivoting, when you're learning your angles, when you're going to be learning footwork drills, turning onto your hooks, rotating your punches, you won't be able to do that as comfortably with a pair of regular running shoes, all right? With boxing shoes, the difference now is the sole, right? The boxing of the sole here. The boxing shoe here has a very uniform and very like smooth sole. This helps you with your pivots, all right? This is a pair of shoes that I bought my son Alex, all right? This is Rival, great company. A lot of companies make good boxing shoes. I think Nike, Adidas, Asics, they all make boxing shoes. Now, don't be confused with a pair of wrestling shoes. Now, wrestling shoes are very similar, and I used to wear them too. It's just that they have more grip underneath, okay, for wrestling mats, so you don't slide as much when you do shots. That's a different type of shoe, all right? So this one here has that, you know, rotation, very smooth underneath, so that way there when you practice your hooks, like I said, and evasions, as well as your footwork and your angles when you spin it in and out, and this is gonna help you out a lot, all right? It's not a must, but it is something that's going to help you out throughout your boxing training. Now, if I look down, we talked about sparring. So I do have a pair of thicker gloves right here, sparring gloves. All right, so these are 16 ounces. Now, let me explain something. If you're going to be super serious about boxing, all right, and I tell my Muay Thai and mixed martial arts students the same speech, all right, you want to be investing good equipment, but also the right equipment for the right purpose. All right, so hear me out. When you're training, you're going to be using different types of gloves for different types of training types of sessions, okay? So when you're sparring, you don't want to be sparring with an opponent, or I should say training partner in this case, with some small, thin gloves, all right? It blows my mind when I see people with 10-ounce gloves or even mixed martial arts gloves sparring full out. That's just nonsense, right? You want to be protecting your training partner, also protecting yourself, your hands, so you want bigger padding. So this is a 16-ounce glove. If you look at the side of this, this is very padded. But the thing is this, the interior of a sparring gloves, they also known as training gloves, are very different than the interior and the fabrication of a boxing glove that's made for repetitious hitting of your heavy bag or focus mitts, all right? This is a very cushiony glove right here. This here is a very hard glove. It doesn't bounce, right? So if you get hit on the nose with this, which is 12 ounce and also very hard, it's gonna be a very different feeling than a boxing glove like this, but it's very cushiony here on your nose, all right? You're gonna appreciate your training partner having a 16-ounce gloves. This is a must. A lot of people who are not like really into boxing or not under a real boxing coach or boxing gym don't understand this, all right? So anybody that comes to my gym, if they want to spar, they need to wear 16-ounce gloves, even if it's gonna be light, because the purpose of training is to improve yourself, but sometimes the light training always gets out of hand slightly, and you want a thicker glove. That way you can protect your training partner, right? We're never there to train to try to injure ourselves. We're there to train to try to improve ourselves, all right? So a good pair of boxing gloves. Now, just on the topic of sparring gloves, well, depending on the weight size, like generally in boxing, if anyone is 175 pounds and up, they're gonna have them spar with 18-ounce gloves. Anywhere from maybe 130, 135 to 170, then they're gonna be wearing 16-ounce gloves. Now, anybody underneath, let's say 130 pounds, it's gonna be 14-ounce gloves. Now you might have like, children or even teenagers or even women that are a little bit smaller or lighter in weight that might be only like, 95, 100 pounds or less. They can actually spar with 12-ounce gloves, all right? That's a heavier glove for their weight size. So once again, individuals such as children or lighter individuals up to 100 pounds, 12-ounce gloves. From 100 to 130 pounds, 14-ounce gloves. 130 to 175 pounds, which is most people generally in boxing gyms, that's where you'll find them, 16-ounce gloves. And 175 to all the way up to 200 plus, 18-ounce gloves, not 16, 18-ounce gloves, all right? These are harder hitting individuals because they just carry more mass under their punches. And now again, I'm not talking about just training. On the topic of a sparring glove, you don't want to be using this. Like a lot of people might be listening to this and saying, well, coach, why don't I just get this type of glove for all purpose? Yeah, that could work. But the thing is, if you, like I said, the interior of this glove is not made the same way as a hardened boxing glove. So if you start to use this for heavy bag work, hard punches on the thigh pads or focus mitts all the time, you're gonna go through these within a matter of months, all right? They're gonna be all destroyed, and then all of the small cushiony padding is gonna all move, break up inside, and then you're gonna feel the knuckles instead of padding, all right? And then they're no good for sparring. So you wanna preserve these sparring gloves for your sparring and get a hard pair of 10 to 12-ounce gloves for your regular sessions, regular heavy bag work, drills, focus mitts, and whatnot. And like I said earlier, I also advocate the bag mitts because this is good for proper functioning. I actually learned this from my Muay Thai master, all right? He had me train all the time with bag mitts, not bag gloves, all right? In Thailand, they train with bag mitts a lot because that teaches you proper placement of your fist in every single punch. All right, the bag mitts that has the thumb open, if you throw a hook incorrectly, you're gonna fracture, hurt, or even sprain your thumb. So you gotta punch that hook and that uppercut correctly. You always wanna aim with the two first knuckles and a clenched fist, all right? In the boxing glove, you might be punching incorrectly and you're not gonna feel anything because it's padded all around and that's comfortable. Like I said, boxing gloves are great. I have most of my students train with regular boxing gloves all the time, but that's because from day one, they could start punching. And it's gonna take a little bit of time for them to get accurate technique. But until then, at least I know that all of my students are not gonna get hand injuries. That's very important. So once again, to recap, if you're into boxing, get a good pair of hand wraps. Get some quality equipment such as boxing gloves. You're gonna be into sparring, get those sparring gloves as well. Invest in that, right? Sparring gloves are gonna last you a lifetime. Get a proper mouth guard, get a good headgear, get the effective boxing shoes, get a good boxing groin protector for your sparring sessions, even for drills, because sometimes maybe someone throws a low blow. You want to have protection down there as well. Get a skipping rope for your cardiovascular training. All of this stuff, and focus mitts, of course. If you're going to be training with a partner, maybe you don't even have a heavy bag. All right, focus mitts are great for distance, for having good technique into your boxing techniques, your movement. You can add that, whereas a heavy bag is just static. You just work out alone on it, but that bag is not going to hit you back. So the focus mitt is almost like a sparring. That way, if someone's qualified enough to hold the mitts and they're experienced and they know exactly what they're doing, they can throw punches back at you, and they're actually, as a trainer, I can actually see my students exactly the flaws in his techniques because I'm standing right in front of him, just like an opponent. I see exacting openings. I'll see the exact spots where I need to rectify very quickly. I'll see all of those details, right? It's almost like you see right through that athlete, and with the focus mitts, that's the great tool to do so. So guys, hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Hope you enjoyed this explanation on boxing training equipment. Maybe I'll do more. If you guys enjoyed this, let me know. And maybe I'll do the next one in the future on Muay Thai, also on MMA training, all the proper equipment you need for them. And maybe I'll cover my favorite types of proper equipment, such as boxing gloves, my favorite brands. I think you guys will know which one that is. But guys, leave us a thumbs up, make sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next tutorial. Take care.